Hello, once again, we are here on the Empower Couples podcast, and joining us today, we are so excited for Egbert and Joy Saavedra to be joining us. To give you a little background on who they are, they live in Tucson, Arizona, and they've been married for 17 years. Today, we found out, is their actual anniversary. They have two children that are 9 and 6 years old. And Egbert is a top retina surgeon and investor, while Joy is a miraculous mom, an angel investor, and has a network marketing business. But they just really love to travel with their family and experience other cultures. And it's so important to them that their children grow up having compassion, love, empathy for everyone that they come across, which to me, and Jocelyn as well, is really reflected in the way they interact and communicate with the people in their own lives and their mentality around how they raise their own children, which we can get into more. But they just wanted to also start out with they feel that a key component to a success in marriage is open communication. So, Egbert and Joy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Aaron and
Yes, thank
Jocelyn.
you.
Well, we really are so excited, and for the couples out there, Egbert and Joy, they live from a space of true love and create their own life together. And that's really why I'm so excited to have them on here. And this really is how they raise their children. So I don't normally talk about the title of the podcast, but it really is Mastery in Marriage and Parenting. And for both of you, I just want you to know that's how we see you. And like mastery is not someplace to get, but it really is the journey that we see that you are on together. So, really, to start us off, if you can, take us back to before you were together. We really love this question. Did you know exactly what you were looking for in a partner?
For me, I think what I envisioned was just someone really with a college degree. That was something that was important to me. And someone who was funny, someone who was kind, and definitely someone who is family oriented. And that's just all, that's like from kind of like a concept in high school, I guess. But of course, it didn't have to be all those things, but it's just something that I kind of conceptualize as that's what I would like to have in my partner.
And for me, at first, I thought I would. What I was looking for was someone who was independent and someone who was their own person, and someone who didn't like link their identity to someone else for their own self worth. So that was what was important to me.
I love that. And you just dove right into something really powerful, so we can go right in there. Tell me about how that looks in your life when, you still maintain your own identity and it's not reliant on the other person. How does that show up in your day-to-day life?
Well, it's just a freedom and trust that's there that we know that whatever the other person's doing, it's for the best interests of the family, for the best interests of themselves, and basically we know that there's a open communication and trust, and we're free to create whatever we want to create. And it's just an exciting time where it's not like one person's reliant on someone else for their own happiness.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. Joy, there's a question that popped up for me. Is that something that developed over your 17 years together, or would you say that was kind of always there from the get-go?
No, it's definitely something that has developed over the past 17 years and is still continuing to develop as a couple and as a family. Like the way I look at our marriage, we basically raised each other. Like I met him when I was in my early 20s and he's mid 20s, and we went through life. And in our 20s, I think we were like trying to figure out who we are individually. And we had kids later on, 7 years later, but it's definitely something we kind of like is a journey. Like it was not something that we even knew was something that was possible or even we wanted. Um, and it's like a work in progress. It's never ending.
What
Which to me is actually what was really special, because if you think of the odds of something working out well and as you're both growing and changing, then you kind of it's possible to grow apart or to grow differences. Whereas for us, even as like who I am now versus who I am when we got married is completely different, and the same for her. And for us to still be passionate with each other and fascinated with each other, I think that's really the key. Is there's that genuine fascination that brings us beyond all those shifting uh, circumstances.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I'm thinking about some of the other couples that will be joining us. Is that a quality that's just automatically there, or is that something that you have to continuously put focus on uh, and really create together?
I think it's a combination of both, where it's within our nature to really be curious about life, about how to manage life, how to go about with our family and our personal growth and our marriage. So the fascination is there already, and it works with our commitment to our family and where we want to go and what we want to create as a couple, as individual, as parents.
And for me, it's easy because like Joy to me is one of the most fascinating people I know. I mean, I just love talking to her and hearing all her insights on things, and it's like one of my most uh, fun and enjoyable things to do. So it just kind of goes with the territory that when I'm uh, so fascinated and smitten by her, then it makes my job easier.
I love that you choose that, mindset so much. It's so powerful. Like just to stay fascinated with each other, never feel like we've figured them out and just become stagnant. So, just tying in the fact that your parents, and not just parents, you're incredible parents, which we'll get into in a minute. How do you, with the dynamics of business and being a parent, still make time to have those conversations where you become fascinated and it isn't just about what chores need to be done or what tasks need to be done?
I mean, really, our downtime for that is when the kids go to bed. Now, our kids go to bed fairly early. Usually, they're in bed by 8:30, and then after that, we really just take the time, like the next couple hours, for ourselves, and we just kind of regroup. Like about our day. Sometimes we watch a show together. Sometimes we have in conversation, whatever showed up for us that day. So that's really our nightly routine. We don't necessarily have a morning routine, but it's more like a nighttime routine that we kind of check back into with each other and kind of like see where we are.
And what's also important for us is when we travel, we try to make it a point for traveling just as a couple, at least like once or twice a year, because whenever we're with the kids, it's so kids focused and kid centric that like we devote all our time and energy to the kids. So we want to be able to cultivate our own dynamic of us as a couple, which kind of takes a back seat when the kids are around. So we try to make it a point to travel, just with the two of us. That way, it rekindles whatever is there, or just continues to allow us to explore the world together and enjoy all those experiences.
Oh, that is so amazing. And what's so funny is you answered my next question. So my question was going to be, how do you bring fun and joy and adventure into your lives? And I know that traveling is such a huge part for both of you, and you do it as a couple and together as a family. But just for fun for listeners, what is just the most inspiring, your favorite place to go in the world as a couple?
Hmm. You want to answer?
I like Japan. Um, the Japanese people are just so fascinating to me, and their culture and how varied it is. Where you could have like the ancient cities of Kyoto, where you're seeing all these old buildings, and you all of a sudden switch to Tokyo, where it's this massive metropolis. So it's just a dichotomy, and to me, I like delving into the culture and learning about it, and they're just fascinating people to me.
I love
And
that. Oh, go ahead.
and for me, I mean, I also love Japan too, but I think my top two places that would be Santorini and Peru. Like
Mm.
visiting Machu Picchu, that was just like amazing. Like for me, I love more of the nature aspect of traveling, and Santorini is just one of the most beautiful, gorgeous places I've ever been to. You just feel so peaceful in most places, and that's just my favorite.
I love that you make traveling a priority, like you said, together, just the two of you and with family. Did you, because I know a lot of the people listening are parents, and they might not have experienced that themselves, where they, travel together alone. Did you raise your children really understanding that about you two so that they really understand that and they, kind of comply and just how did you set that up as a family dynamic?
Well, like even now, whenever we're about to leave, we tell them that that uh, we wanted to we're going on this trip because we want to spend time with each other so that we can continue to develop and create our love for each other, and that it's important that we love each other, and that unit will allow us to create everything for the family. But the love for each other, that is the kind of the foundation to build everything upon. So they know that it's important for us to continue to to water that plant.
That is
And the way I
amazing.
kind of broke it down to the kids since they're young, when they're younger, I just tell them, like, for example, don't you love your alone time with mommy and daddy? Like, we have our own little alone time where I take Caitlin out or take Nathan out individually and vice versa. And we've also done, like, individual long weekends, like girls' weekend, boys' weekend, stuff like that. So they understand the concept of having alone time. So we kind of explain it to them in that way that, as much as you love your alone time with mommy and daddy individually, we also need that alone time for us, for ourselves. So that way, when we come back, we're refreshed, we're energized, and we're ready. And, it makes us better, parents and have a better understanding as a married couple.
I love what you said right there, and it's what I'm taking away from myself is really that you communicate to your kids not just from a parent to child perspective or sending commands or things to do, but you actually communicate yourself to your kids, and I think that's really an extraordinary point. We don't have kids, but if I would imagine if we did, we really take that on. I think that's such a great point for the couples that do have kids out there. So that really brings me to another question, and to recap, Egbert being one of the top retina surgeons around and being an investor, and Joy being an angel investor into a wonderful up-and-coming dessert hummus company called Delighted By, and having a network marketing business, and then having kids, there are so many people I know that would be like, wow, it's so busy. So there must be challenges that I would say come up with all of the things that you both are up to. So I want to ask, how do you handle challenges, and how do you handle when things do come up? And maybe if you had an example, that would really be great too.
Well, challenges, it's we view it as how it appears to us. So you could view a challenge as something that has to be handled, or you could view challenge as an opportunity. So for us, we always view things as opportunities. So it makes whatever situation we're dealing with show up in a completely different light.
And I'm guessing that would have you emotionally react a different way. So let's say, a couple, they might see something as a challenge and it's hard, and then that might have them start to bicker or argue. How do you emotionally handle it so that it is an opportunity and so that you're really on the same team as you approach that opportunity?
Well, I think overall, when our life overall is pretty smooth for the most part, but then things show up, and instead of like looking at it in a way that it's negative, or it's something that we don't want to deal with, or it's something that's kind of like an inconvenience, we literally take it on as a challenge and look at it. How is this showing up to me? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this causing frustration or anger or whatever the emotion may be, right? And then we kind of regroup and we like, okay, what does it look like for you? And what do you want to do with this? So we kind of really just, it's like a teamwork.
And like when you look at a challenge and go, and instead of thinking of it as what you have to deal and put up with, you can go, well, what can I contribute to this? What can I create? How can I use my creativity to benefit this project or whatever situation we have to deal with? So just by changing the way you look at things, the situation just alters and it brings ease to the whole situation.
Egbert, that's so great. I don't know if you've read Dr. Wayne Dyer's work, but it just reminded me of something he says. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think you,
right.
Yeah, that's
I think
great.
You just said that perfectly right there. And I hear, because one of the 6 human needs, right, is one of the needs of the Spirit is actually growth, right? The need of the Spirit is growth and contribution. And just hearing your perspective on life, how you view things, it sounds like there's a lot of places or a lot of time spent in growth. So what are some ways that you personally grow together? Do you read books? Do you go to seminars? Do you have a coach? How do you grow in this mindset and view of life?
Well, for us, it started with taking the Landmark Forum. And then from then on, like taking additional courses. And we also took a leadership course that Werner Erhard did. And that really opened up our minds to and change the way we look at the world and look at life in general. So it started with that, and now we're always in the conversation. So like when we said at night, we would just talk. I mean, we would just talk for hours and just share our thoughts with each other. So we bounce ideas off each other, and I learned so much from talking to Joy.
And it's the same thing. Like, I learned so much from talking to Egbert. He's really, really great at breaking things down. Like, if things, maybe from books that we've read or courses that we've taken together, he's like the master of breaking it down in a way that people will get it without actually having to be so confused as to what they're trying to say and what kind of message they're trying to, teach you. And for me, that's like the key with our communication. Like we really see each other as masters of whatever we're saying. You know what I mean? Like I'm just there to listen. And our conversation is not always heavy. It's just sometimes just something silly. So it's not like we have this conversation every night. Let's just have this deep, in-depth conversation.
Let me share with you a story of what happened when we were in Japan. So we went to this Zen monastery called Ryoanji, and in the side of the monastery they have this fountain where people can cleanse themselves prior to going in, and on top it had this engraving in Chinese/Japanese writing where the top says, "I only learned to be content." All right. So then I said, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm living that. I'm learning to be content, and I live my life that way. So then 2 days later, we were walking around Osaka, and it was kind of a hot day. So then I was saying to Joy, "Hey, do you want to get some soft serve ice cream?" Then I wanted a kind of a fruity flavor, but the one we went to was this green matcha tea flavor. And then they had like a regular and a concentrated one, and we got the regular one. And I noticed as I was eating my ice cream, like the things running through my head was like, this flavor isn't that strong. Maybe I should have gotten the other one. And then I really wanted the fruity flavor. And then as I was thinking that, I just remembered the saying, "I only learned to be content." Then I go, how is that affecting my enjoyment of this? This is what's in front of me. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm dealing with. So it doesn't matter what I wanted it to be or what it should be. This is what's here. So then I took the next bite of the ice cream and I thought, this is amazing. This is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. So then I shared that with Joy, and then Joy started laughing and goes, the whole time you were eating that, what was running through my head was, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. So, like, just things like that, things about discovering for ourselves, we make it humorous, and we make it just part of daily life.
That's
Yeah,
something.
it was so funny. Like he was sharing that with me, and literally we were literally sitting there side by side with our tour guide, and we weren't talking. We were just sitting there, like under a tree, eating our ice cream, and that's going through his head, and I'm sitting there like, man, this ice cream is so good. It's so creamy. I love the flavor. I wish I had this in the U.S. And these birds, they're chirping and singing. They're like wanting me to give them some ice cream. And he's in his head, like thinking whatever he's thinking. So that's the dynamic of our relationship almost. It's kind of funny.
I truly love and want to underscore that you bring joy to transformation and growth and not just heaviness. And a lot of people will, begin personal development, spiritual development, all of it, and really then start to become really significant about life, and then almost a way to have something to hold against each other. Well, you learned that in the seminar. Why aren't you implementing that? So maybe just speak to a little bit more how you really have grace for each other in growth, and that you may learn something and it's really taking practice, but that you don't really expect each other to be perfect overnight.
Yes, we definitely grew into this, but I think the most important underlying key for us is really the feeling that things are inherently meaningless, and there is no significance to it, and there's no significance to the significance. So when we really get that, it's like trying to make sense out of clouds, or try to make sense out of an anthill. We'll make up our own meaning, and we're in charge of that. So we take that responsibility really carefully, because we realize that, what we see in each other, it's not really what she's doing, it's what we bring to it. So we're the ones creating that thought of what she is to me and whatnot. So when we each take responsibility for how we view things and how we interpret what's going on, then it makes life so much easier.
That's amazing. I love that so much. And you're interested in each other's perspective. You're not attached to, well, you should see how I think this ice cream's really good. You're crazy for thinking that. You're really interested in just each other's perspective, and that is truly remarkable.
Yeah, I love hearing her ideas, because if it changes the way I view it, then I'll borrow it. So I love to be able to shift the way I see things. So I love hearing other people's thoughts, because I might like it better than my thoughts.
Right. That's so good. You can swap them out for a better one.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, one of the last things I wanted to just touch on is in the realm of finances, because that's such a huge topic for couples, and studies have been done to say that half of marriages could be saved just over, I don't want to say just, but $500 extra a month for couples will saves marriages out there. So a lot of times we hear, do what successful people do, and certainly, just to underscore, both of you have really attracted and, like we like to say, circulated an abundance of money. But rather than ask, how do you do that, I really think it's important to understand what people believe about something. So maybe Joy, start us off. For you, what is it you believe about money that has had this abundance show up in your life?
Since I was a child, I've always had this belief that everything will be all right. I shared this with Egbert, and I don't know if it's just throwing the energy out there and believing in that, whether it's in finance, whether it's in finding a husband, whether it's in being a parent. And we all make mistakes, right? And I learn, I grow from those mistakes, but I always feel like for me, in my life, regardless of my circumstances, everything will be all right. And it's kind of the same way I look at money. I always feel like, and we didn't have a lot from the beginning. So, it's like everything will be all right. Like the universe will provide for us what we don't have, and it will show up. And that's how I've always lived my life in general. And it's been working for me, so I'm just going to continue to keep that.
I love that. Well, and Egbert, I know you view it or you have the similar energy to it. Just you have that trust, that empowering relationship to the energy of money, and I think it's really interesting, for people to hear, because you are a really successful medical professional, but you also circulate your money in investments. So talk a little bit more about your mindset about circulating and having your money continue to create more money.
Yeah, the way I view it is it's currency, right? So it's supposed to run. It's supposed to, go from place to place and move and not stay stagnant. And the way I view it, there was a quote that Joy and I ran into that said, like whenever you spend money, you're casting a vote for the type of world that you want. So that's the way I view investments. I want to invest in companies that bring joy and happiness to the world. It can be in anything, things that I enjoy, like Disney or Netflix or Apple or Tesla. So I invest in companies that I see are making a difference, and that's how I view it. Is I'm trying to shape the world through my investments. I'm actually voting with my investment money to see the kind of world that I want to develop for us and our kids.
That is truly remarkable. I mean, that mindset is so powerful, and I know that you're really intentional with what you invest in. You don't just look at, wow, this has a great return on investment, I'm going to put in a lot here. You truly check in on the energy behind that company or that idea, and that is really remarkable. And I know that's why you continue to attract abundance, because it's from such a positive, thoughtful place for all of humanity and for the world. And I just want, to really, I think we could talk to you both for hours. I think we need a full seminar with both of you. But truly, thank you for just even in this short time sharing your wisdom, and especially on your anniversary. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for who you are as parents, as partners, as people who just represent joy and abundance and just love of life. I really think you two are one of the most powerful couples I've ever met. So thank you for who you are and for sharing on this podcast.